They told you something was wrong with you. Not once, not twice, 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways. You're too sensitive. Toughen up. Stop taking everything so personally. You cry too much. You overthink everything. You're exhausting. And somewhere along the way, you believed them. You started apologizing for your tears. You started hiding your reactions. You started performing a version of yourself that felt less, that needed less, that hurt less visibly. You became an expert at shrinking, at minimizing, at pretending the world wasn't hitting you with the volume turned all the way up. But here's what nobody told you. Here's what they got completely wrong. You were never broken. You were never weak. You were never too much. You were wired differently, and different doesn't mean defective. Think about it. When was the last time you walked into a room and immediately felt the energy shift? When was the last time you knew something was wrong with someone before they said a word? When was the last time you noticed a detail so subtle, so invisible to everyone around you, that they looked at you like you were reading minds? That's not a curse. That's a superpower. And the people who told you to turn it off, they didn't understand what they were asking you to destroy. Most people experience the world in standard definition. Clear enough, functional enough. They process what's necessary, filter out the rest, and move through life without being overwhelmed by it. But your brain records everything in 8K resolution. Every texture, every undercurrent, every unspoken tension, every hidden emotion, every layer beneath the surface that everyone else walks right past. You don't just observe the world, you experience it completely, fully, with every nerve firing at once. And yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, sometimes you need to disappear into silence just to recover from existing. But here's the question nobody asks. What if that exhaustion is the price of perception? What if the overwhelm is the cost of seeing what others simply cannot? Carl Jung wrote, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." You've been in conflict your whole life, not with the world, with yourself, with the part of you that feels everything, sees everything, knows things before they're spoken. And that conflict is costing you everything, because you've been spending your energy trying to be something you're not, trying to install a filter your brain was never designed to have, trying to become a dandelion when you were always meant to be an orchid. It's time to stop. Here's what's actually happening inside you. Here's the neuroscience nobody sat you down and explained. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It's operating exactly as it was designed, just at a frequency most people can't access. There are 3 specific differences in how your brain processes reality, and once you understand them, everything you've been ashamed of starts to make sense. The first is this: your brain has no filter. Most people's brains are built to ignore, to automatically discard 90% of incoming information as irrelevant. The hum of the air conditioning, the tension in someone's shoulders, the slight hesitation before someone answers a question. Their brain deletes it, files it as noise. Your brain files nothing as noise. Everything is relevant. Everything is information. Everything gets processed, analyzed, connected, stored. The texture of a room, the energy of a conversation, the mood of a stranger sitting across from you. This is why you get overwhelmed in crowded places, why you need quiet to recover, why you can't just let things go the way others seem to. Your brain isn't letting anything go because it's still processing it. But this same feature, this same overwhelming flood of information, is why you notice things, real things, things that matter. The crack in someone's smile that reveals they're not actually okay. The pattern in a problem that everyone else has been staring at without seeing. The solution hiding in plain sight. You don't miss things, you catch everything. The second difference is your mirror neurons. These are the neurons responsible for empathy, and yours are hyperactive. When someone near you is in pain, you don't just understand it intellectually. You feel it physically, in your chest, in your body, as if their emotion is happening to you directly. You are not imagining this. The neuroscience is real. Your brain is literally simulating the emotional states of people around you. You absorb what others feel without choosing to, without being able to stop it. This is why toxic environments destroy you faster than they destroy others. Why you leave certain conversations feeling drained beyond explanation. Why being around suffering people makes you suffer too, even when it's not your burden to carry. You are an emotional sponge in a world full of spills, and nobody handed you a manual. The third difference is how deeply you process everything. While others react quickly, instinctively, shallowly, your brain runs complex simulations. Before you speak, before you decide, before you act, you're unconsciously connecting this moment to memories, predicting possible futures, analyzing the meaning beneath the words. People call this overthinking. They say you're slow, indecisive, hesitant. But Nietzsche understood something about depth that the world consistently undervalues. He wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. You're not slow, you're thorough. And thorough isn't a weakness, it's a standard. Here's the question that silences every argument against your sensitivity. If being this way was truly a defect, a weakness, a mistake of nature, why does it still exist? Evolution is brutal, merciless, ruthless in its elimination of anything that doesn't serve survival. If sensitivity was purely a liability, it would have been erased from the human genome thousands of years ago. But it wasn't. It was kept, deliberately, necessarily, because every tribe needs more than warriors. The warriors were essential, bold, risk-taking, fast to act. They hunted, they fought, they protected. The world celebrates that archetype, builds systems for it, designs entire cultures around it. But a tribe of only warriors dies. They charge forward without seeing the danger they can't perceive. They miss the signs. They misread the room. They feel nothing coming until it's already there. That's where you come in. You were the one who sensed the storm before the clouds appeared, who noticed the tension in the neighboring tribe's camp before weapons were drawn, who felt that something was wrong before anyone could articulate what. You were the early warning system, the advisor, the one whose perception protected everyone who was too bold to pay attention. The world today is loud, fast, built for the warriors, social media, open offices, constant stimulation, non-stop noise, and you feel out of place in it. Of course you do. It wasn't designed for you. But out of place is not the same as without value. The orchid doesn't thrive on the sidewalk. It withers there. It struggles in the same soil that dandelions call home. And for years you've blamed yourself for not being a dandelion, for not thriving in concrete, for needing more. But the research reveals something extraordinary. When an orchid is placed in the right environment, with the right light, the right soil, the right care, it doesn't just survive, it produces something no dandelion ever could. A complexity of beauty that is possible only because of its sensitivity, only because it feels everything, only because it responds to the smallest shifts in its environment with total precision. You don't need to toughen up. You need to stop planting yourself in the wrong soil. Because here's what happens when a highly sensitive person finally stops apologizing for their sensitivity and starts protecting it instead. They see farther, they feel deeper, they connect more authentically. They create with a richness that people who feel less simply cannot access. They stop being the most overwhelmed person in the room and become the most aware. They stop being the most exhausted and become the most perceptive. They stop being the problem and reveal themselves as the solution. And in the next step, you're going to discover exactly what it means to build a life that honors your sensitivity instead of punishing it. The specific shifts that transform your greatest vulnerability into your greatest power. But before that, there's something you need to hear. Stop trying to fix yourself. You cannot change your biology. And more importantly, you shouldn't want to. The world has enough numbness. Enough people who have successfully trained themselves to feel less, notice less, care less. The world doesn't need you to join them. The world needs you to stay exactly as you are. But there is a difference between honoring your sensitivity and being consumed by it. There is a difference between feeling everything and having no boundaries. Between being open and being unprotected. Between being aware and being a prisoner of everyone else's emotional weather. This is the work. Not hardening yourself, not building walls, but learning to be a sensor with a filter you control. Not the filter that blocks information, but the filter that decides what you absorb, what you observe, and what you choose to carry. You are allowed to feel without drowning. You are allowed to notice without being overwhelmed. You are allowed to care deeply without losing yourself completely. This starts with permission. The permission you've been waiting for someone to give you. So here it is. You are allowed to need silence. That's not weakness. That's maintenance. You are allowed to leave environments that drain you. That's not sensitivity. That's self-preservation. You are allowed to take longer to decide. That's not indecision. That's depth. You are allowed to feel things intensely. That's not instability, that's being fully human. And the next time someone tells you you're too sensitive, you don't need to argue. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to apologize. You just need to remember what they can't see, that while they're watching the world in standard definition, you're recording every detail in 8K. While they're skimming the surface, you're reading the depth. While they're hearing the words, you're listening to everything underneath them. That's not a burden. That's a gift, one that the world has always needed, even when it didn't know how to appreciate it. Think about the most important people in your life, the ones who made you feel truly seen, the ones who knew something was wrong before you said a word, the ones who noticed the detail that changed everything, the ones who felt what you needed before you could ask for it. They were like you, sensitive, perceptive, deeply aware, and you needed them more than you needed anyone who was simply strong. So here's what I want you to do. In the comments, I want you to share the one moment in your life when your sensitivity revealed something that nobody else could see. The moment your 8K vision caught what standard definition missed completely. Maybe it was sensing a person's true intentions before it was too late. Maybe it was noticing a detail that solved a problem. Maybe it was feeling something that turned out to be exactly right. Share it, because someone reading your story might finally understand that what they've been ashamed of their entire life is actually the most powerful thing about them. You were never the problem. You were always the solution. You were never too sensitive. You were exactly sensitive enough. The world told you to turn down the volume, but some things can only be heard at full volume. Some truths only reveal themselves to those willing to feel everything, and you were always willing, even when it cost you, even when it hurt, even when you wished you could feel less. That willingness, that's not your weakness, that's your greatness.